From the headquarters of FtS English in Quito, Ecuador, this is From the South, and I am Sunny Gray. Candidates for Sunday's presidential election in Brazil will face off in their last televised debate late on Thursday. The Workers' Party candidate Fernando Haddad has said an underhand campaign by the media is largely responsible for the advance in the polls of the far-right candidate Jair Bolsonaro. He said abusive messages were being spread on social media and then published as fake news. The latest poll by Ibope on Wednesday showed Haddad creeping up to 23% behind Bolsonaro's 32%.
We're going to keep our positive approach, but now the time has also come to defend ourselves in this final stretch, because it's very serious what's happening on WhatsApp. We estimate that millions of messages were sent with very offensive content on one platform or another, and some of the messages have been picked up and published as fake news by certain media.
The third-place candidate in the poll, Ciro Gomez, has accused the front-runner, Jair Bolsonaro, of lying about his health. Gomez says the far-right candidate used a false medical record to avoid taking part in the last televised debate. Bolsonaro has spent much of the campaign in hospital after being stabbed on September 6th. He was discharged last Saturday but said he wasn't well enough to take part in this debate on Sunday. Meanwhile, the leader of the Landers Workers Movement, João Pedro Stedley, told FtS he doesn't believe that there is mass support for fascism in Brazil.
We know that the fascists put all their financial and media resources and their influence over the courts into this. But we have the people. There is no real support for fascism in Brazilian society to sustain Bolsonaro's candidacy. So he's reached his peak of about 30%. He can't go beyond that. And in the second round, all the activists of all social movements will go door to door, explaining to people what this coup means, what the capitalists, the gringos, and the fascists want. And on October 28th, we'll achieve a great victory for Haddad. We're confident we'll win.
The centre-left candidate Marina Silva of the Reddest Party has been campaigning in Rio de Janeiro. It's her third attempt at the presidency.
The first thing, with the grace of God and the Brazilian people, is to be elected, to recover credibility, legitimacy, so that the people vote for investments that generate employment and that people can invest in civil infrastructure.
And let's go to the independent journalist Mike Fox, who will tell us about the mood in Brazil at the moment.
You can feel the polarization pretty well. The atmosphere is fairly intense. I'd say it's energized because people are really excited one way or another. You know, those supporters for Haddad, the possibility of a return to the left, and also obviously those supporters for Bolsonaro that are really excited about a drastic change for Brazil. There's a very large percent of the population there in the middle that isn't quite sure what to believe. I was interviewing people on the street just this afternoon. And there's a lot of people that are split, but definitely people, I'd say they're nervous, they're energized, and they're looking forward towards Sunday for whatever that's going to mean.
Social movements in Uruguay have created a committee to support democracy in Brazil and the release of the former president, Lula da Silva. Activists, political figures, and intellectuals attended an event to launch the committee. The body will try to raise awareness about the threats from neoliberal policies to the peoples of Latin America and the rights they have won.
Right now, we are risking democracy in Brazil. So having a committee supporting us in Uruguay, our brothers, our neighbors, we share the same values. It is very important at the moment.
Peru's former president, Alberto Fujimori, has been taken to a local hospital. This after the Supreme Court overturned his pardon and ordered his arrest. He will be returned to prison where he was serving a 25-year sentence for human rights abuses. The court found grounds to uphold a civil appeal against the pardon granted last December by then-President Pedro Pablo Kuczynski. Fujimori's pardon and release led to widespread protests, and Kuczynski was forced to resign 2 months later. Fujimori supporters have clashed with police officials outside the former president's residence. They reportedly shouted at and pushed officers who arrived to execute a search of the house. Meanwhile, Fujimori's daughter Keiko says she will appeal the court's decision. She believes her father has the right to be pardoned.
Today is one of the saddest days of our lives. It is extremely painful to know a judge from our country has taken away my father's freedom, saying that because he's not dying, he has no right to a humanitarian pardon.
Fujimori's lawyer said the appeal will be based on the health of the former president. But activists say that it's just an excuse for Fujimori to escape punishment for his crimes.
In the morning when I spoke to him, he was quite shocked. And this, as you know, for someone who has a heart illness, can have an immediate effect.
For its part, the Peruvian government says it respects the court's decision. In a public statement, the government says the judiciary has the independence to make its decisions. Relatives of those killed during the former Peruvian president Alberto Fujimori's term in office say justice has finally been served. They say they feel at peace with the judge's order to once again detain the former president.
We have always been respectful of the judiciary and the decisions of its members. We have also respected the Inter-American Court of Human Rights and its resolutions. Today, the resolution made by Judge Núñez Julca regarding Alberto Fujimori has given us peace knowing we were heard. We feel the judiciary respected us and understood the need to serve justice to the victims by ordering the arrests of one of the responsibles for the disappearance and death of our relatives.
And our correspondent in Lima, Jaime Herrera, has the latest.
We are outside the home of former President Alberto Fujimori. Just a few minutes ago, his daughter Keiko was here, but she quickly left after speaking to the media. She was literally in tears. She said this is one of the worst days of her life, as her father will have to return to prison again. We now await the judiciary's official instruction to the police to comply with the judge's order to detain the former president again. He had already been serving a 25-year sentence for crimes against humanity. Meanwhile, relatives of the victims and human rights organizations have said they will speak to the media as well, but they declare that justice has been served. A complaint had been filed at the Inter-American Court of Human Rights against the pardon Fujimori received. The International Court then asked the judiciary to review the decision and to determine if the pardon was in compliance with the law. Police forces are waiting outside Fujimori's home. They're waiting for an arrest order to be issued. Some supporters of the former president are also gathered here.
The order for Fujimori's arrest came just before the deadline for Congress to approve 4 anti-corruption reforms. Lawmakers have until Thursday to adopt the reforms demanded by President Martin Vizcarra. They will then be submitted to a national referendum on December 9th. Last month, President Vizcarra threatened to shut down Congress if it didn't approve the reform to the judicial system and other institutions. Jamaica's Prime Minister Andrew Holness has addressed a concern from a member of the opposition that the master plan for the redevelopment of Heroes Park and downtown Kingston would involve the demolition of the existing architecture.
In fact, the master plan proposes the redevelopment of the entire area around the park. The development proposal has considered the accommodation of government ministries, departments and agencies to the east, west and south of the National Heroes Park, as well as the further upgrade of the adjoining residential neighborhoods, which include Almantown.
On Wednesday, Dominica's Prime Minister toured the sites of several proposed hotels in the area of Portsmouth. Prime Minister Skerritt says the 3 hotels currently under construction would help to diversify the country's economy and add value to a tourism industry still recovering from the devastating effects of Hurricane Maria in 2017. We'll take a short break now. More news in a few.
world infested by inequalities, abuse of power, and injustice. The American journalist Abby Martin covers the struggle for fundamental rights worldwide, deepening into the search of files which uncover the empire's strategies through our screen and web platform in English. The Empire Files with Abby Martin. Tuesday, only on Telesur.
Welcome back. Mexico's President-elect Andrés Manuel López Obrador has spoken by phone with the U.S. President Donald Trump about the new trade deal that replaces NAFTA. López Obrador said they spoke about using the agreement to boost investment in Mexico and Central America. They agreed that economic development in the region could help to reduce migration towards the United States. On Sunday, the U.S., Canada, and Mexico agreed to a new trade deal, now known as the USMCA.
We talk about the importance of the initial signing of this agreement, which in our case gives us economic certainty, allows for confidence in investment in the medium and long term. So it was a good agreement. That's what we talk about, and we also talk about a next step, that we can agree on joint investment.
Women in Bolivia are developing a plan to fight sexism and to promote greater equality.
More than a dozen women organizations are organizing regional referendums to consolidate a national alliance with different sectors.
Women have to remain together more than ever. We want to consolidate a national alliance.
We want to reach unity to support a process of change. Social organizations and women have to accompany change in the country. We will support our president, Evo Morales.
Women organizations are building a program with 7 main topics to then socialize it with the government. They will ask for a bigger political participation and a fight against sexism.
It is very important to recognize the knowledge of women. They are the ones who guarantee, for example, food security.
There is still a lot of discriminations towards women. They are not allowed to work in some cases or occupy management posts.
Women have to be appointed for 50% of official posts. They are demanding this to be a reality.
Women occupy 51% of seats in the Senate. We are still missing women in mayor's offices. From 339 municipalities, only 35 women are mayors. By 2020, we need at least 150 women as mayors.
In previous governments, women couldn't own lands. The state is also promoting free housing for women.
Several social and political organizations in Argentina have held a feminist forum in opposition to a G20 women's meeting. The forum was presented as a parallel to the Women 20 meeting, which proposes to define the woman's gender.
With the slogan, "Not in our name," demonstrators unanimously rejected the topics proposed in the G20 Women Group. They say the topics deny and cover up the structural causes of inequality, exclusion, and forced subordination.
Talking about work inclusion, they propose entrepreneurship, but we say that stands very far away from our experiences of social and popular economy. At the same time, they think the future of jobs will happen in a context of austerity, adjustments and labour reforms, yet they invite representatives from transnationals to speak and not rural women who suffer under these actions.
According to social leader Zulema Aguirre, the Women 20 meeting is a farce.
They take away our rights. When we organize ourselves to defend our rights, they criminalize us, kidnap us, jail us, and judge us. This woman will never think about how we can live better lives. That's why we need to come here to tell them the meeting is a lie.
In the protest, they also condemn the consequences that neoliberal politics promoted by the G20 create, which in Argentina are implemented by the Macri administration.
We understand that the International Monetary Fund has found in Mauricio Macri its main executor. Through the G20, they are applying adjustment policies against workers.
Women 20 talks about women empowerment, but we are seeing how they continue to sink into gender inequality since Macrismo arrived.
This feminist group, which was created by the need to give a voice to lesbian, bisexual, non-binary, trans women and transvestite, bring up topics that are not present in the Women 20 meeting.
Our migrant colleagues have a strong voice, and they are not included in the women. We want to display our organisation to show we are talking about activism that has no frontiers. It is not possible that migratory politics are not included. We are thinking about a world which is not dominated by capitalism.
Activists from the Feminist Forum against the G20 say that the future will be feminist or there will be none. That is why they will continue their fight on October the 30th and November the 1st, when the Summit of the Americas will take place in Argentina.
Interpol has issued a red notice against the leader of Colombia's National Liberation Army. The judiciary in Colombia has filed charges against Nicolas Rodriguez Bautista, alias Gabino, for aggravated homicide and criminal recruitment. Critics fear this will put the peace dialogue with the armed group at risk. Meanwhile, FARC member Ivan Marquez says modifications made to the 2016 peace agreement are a betrayal. He believes the group was naive to lay down its weapons before the deal was implemented. For their part, Colombian authorities have accused him and another member of not being committed to the peace process.
Also today, Ivan Marquez and Oscar Montero have given a first statement on wanting to continue with the process. It's very important that they respond to the judge.
Members of the Ecuadorian Organization of Missing People went before the International Court of Justice to expose what they say is the state's inaction on cases involving their loved ones. Our correspondent, Denise Herrera, has more.
Maribel was born in a city on the Ecuadorian coast. She moved to the capital, Quito, in search of a better life. Unfortunately, she is now grappling with the loss of her son. He seemingly disappeared from a public hospital years ago. Sadly, hers is an all too familiar history.
From that moment, my life changed completely. I called my mother. I called out to my son. We stepped out of the hospital, and then when we went back in, nothing. We never saw him again. We never found him. It's been 7 years and 6 months, and I still don't know where my son is. We went to all the authorities, but no one could help find him. No one has seen him. Although we made several reports, we turned up empty-handed.
We are one of several families living this nightmare. Each day we suffer not knowing where our loved ones are. They could be anywhere out there in Ecuador. But the authorities have failed to respond to our plight, and this is unacceptable.
In light of this, relatives of missing persons have formed an organization in a bid to get answers, locate their loved ones, and to demand urgent action from the authorities. The group now has the support of the Ombudsman's office. They have taken their plight to no less than the international courts.
In Ecuador, there is no clear process to find a missing person, and this is a violation of the obligation to establish clear and effective resources.
The Organization of Missing People has also met with analysts, legal experts, and other authorities. Some legal experts say Ecuador must fulfill its responsibility as a state after this international hearing.
The Ecuadorian state has a legal and moral obligation. Firstly, the state must take urgent action in these missing persons cases. Prompt investigations must also be carried out, and missing persons' relatives must be consistently informed and updated, as they have a right to know the truth. Secondly,
Who is responsible? Justice must be served. And finally, in adverse cases, reparations must be paid by the Ecuadorian state.
According to the Ecuadorian government, around 40,000 people were registered as missing, and that so far for this year alone. Ecuadorian authorities were supposed to provide a missing person update at the recent media conference, but they failed to do so. They left without providing any details, much to relatives' dismay. Denise Herrera, Telesur, Ecuador.
And we'll take another short break now. World News is after this.
Telesur brings you special interviews with social and political personalities. Monday, from Washington. Tuesday, from Mexico. Wednesday, from Caracas. Thursday, from Quito. Friday, from Havana. Analysis about our continent's reality. Weekdays, only on Telesur.
Welcome back. Indonesian officials have said the death toll has climbed to over 1,400, but that an estimated 1,000 people are still missing. Rescue teams fear that time is running out as the authorities have set a deadline of Friday for finding anyone still alive. The United Nations Humanitarian Office said around 200,000 people are in urgent need of food and medical care, and included in that number is tens of thousands of children. And after the tragedy in Indonesia, soldiers have been ordered to fire on people caught looting. Police have already arrested dozens of people for looting within the disaster zone surrounding the seaside city of Palu. Authorities say aid is arriving so that there's no need for looting, and if people are caught in the act, soldiers will first fire a warning shot and then shoot to wound. Thousands of people are fleeing their homes in southwest Cameroon amid fears of violence during the October 7 general elections. In recent months, unrest in the Anglophone regions has escalated. Fighting between English-speaking regions, security forces and armed groups has intensified. Around 1,000 separatists have threatened to block the roads during the election, and opposition candidates are looking to unseat President Paul Biya, who's been in power for 36 years.
There's a panic around the people because security cannot be anywhere at any time. So that is why we are uncertain of the future. We don't know what may happen. So that is why it brings fear in the hearts of people.
Romanians will vote this weekend in a referendum that aims to deny same-sex couples the right to marry. Romania's constitution currently defines marriage as a union between spouses. The poll will decide whether the Constitution can characterize marriage as explicitly between a man and a woman. Human rights groups have criticized the referendum for breaching human rights standards and discriminating against homosexuals.
For the last 3 years, since this virulent campaign about redefining family started, the attacks against the LGBT community grew heavily, and it's easy to feel this kind of violence, which, thank God, for now is just verbal, and it's a type of symbolic, spiritual violence exerted by the church.
Now let's look at what else is happening around the world.
Russian President Vladimir Putin is about to arrive in India to hold bilateral talks with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. They will be discussing deals on defense, trade, nuclear energy, and space technology. One of the most significant outcomes of the current visit is expected to be India's purchase of the S-400 air defense missile system worth more than $5 billion. The meeting comes 5 months after the two leaders last met in Russia. Italian Mayor Domenico Luciano, a pro-migrant politician, has appeared in court for allegedly favoring illegal migration and misusing funds for migration. He has been accused of organizing marriages of convenience for immigration purposes. The mayor of the South Italian town of Riace has been under house arrest by the finance police since Tuesday. Luciano made headlines for integrating thousands of refugees and thus revitalizing declining rural population.
Let's see. If they let me speak, I will. I don't have anything to hide or not to say. Everything I know, I will tell them. I will say goodbye.
At least 7 Turkish soldiers have been killed in a bomb attack allegedly by militants of the Kurdistan Workers' Party. 3 other soldiers have also been injured in the strike. The explosion happened close to the town of Gerkes, located in a province mostly populated by the Kurdish. State media reported the soldiers were on their way to carry out operations against Kurdish fighters.
We've come to the end of this news brief. For these and many other stories, you can find them on our website at telestiertv.net/English. And join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For Telestier English, I'm Sonia Gray. Thank you for watching.
The ruling world order has always subjugated the masses. But who are the actors behind every move? What are their real interests?